when did you get started on the recruiting process?
Yeah, I think it was a sophomore year, maybe going into my sophomore year was when I first started, I think. Yeah, and it was more so in the beginning, it was a lot of just mass emails, if I'm being honest, like having like a set of words to say and then just changing the coaches' names and just sending it out to like as many coaches as I could. And that was the beginning of it. And it like slowly progressed to more sending it out to specific schools depending on like if they had my major and like if I was like actually interested in going to the school itself or if they're like gonna be at tournaments that I was playing in. And then yeah, from there I was talking to a few schools and then eventually I committed. And that's like the big overview of it, I would say. Yeah. Really broad.
That's all right. Broad strokes is good. Broad strokes is good.
That's how it happens. That quick, that fast.
Yeah. It probably doesn't seem like it, but so when you start first, we call it casting a wide net. Mm-hmm. So when you're casting a wide net, you're emailing a bunch of programs. Like, how do you even determine what schools to try and contact? I mean, do you go to the NCAA and pull up a list of schools and go, oh yeah, I'll email these 50 schools or I'll email these conferences, or like, how did that transpire?
Yeah, I think it was actually kind of like that, I think, honestly. My dad printed out like all like the schools in like every division and we were just going through them and be like, oh yeah, I recognize this school's name, so I'll highlight it and then I'll just yeah, but to be honest, pretty much.
Was there any rhyme or reason? Like, were you drawn to like specific conferences, or no, you're just like random sampling a bunch of different schools? Or
in the beginning, I think it was like West Coast, like I want to go on the West Coast. But then a little bit later, it was like, okay, maybe I should also open up to East Coast too. You know, you want to just cast like a super wide net, and so it wasn't really any school in particular. I think any type of schools in particular, yeah.
So they looked at the list and saw Stanford, check, highlight. They saw all these other schools, check, highlight. And then they went back through it and said, "Oh, that sounds good. Okay, highlight. Got it. I understand now." So for those of you listening, grab the list and just start highlighting.
Exactly. It's it. Yeah. Anyway, that could go. You trying to take me down a rabbit hole, but you know.
No, not at all.
Yeah, get me started on a topic that we're not talking about here. Too funny. So, hey, you said you started as a sophomore, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that was too late, or you felt like it was good for you? Like,
I think for me personally, it was okay. But I do think that if I were to go back, I probably would have started my freshman year just because I had the resources my freshman year. I just chose not to use them. I think that when I joined COA, you guys had sports recruits. And even though I had access to it my freshman year, we were like, it's okay, we'll just wait till you're a little bit older. I think too, though, I was still debating whether I wanted to play in college or not. And so I think that it was more so going into my sophomore year where I was more certain of like, okay, this is something I want to do. And so I was able to pursue it more.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think people kind of fall into this two modes. One, not sure if you want to play, so why do the work if I'm not sure that I want to play? And the other one is that I have time. And I don't know. I can't really speak into the not certain. Like for me, it seems like it would be smart just to do a little bit of work, just in case you did want to do it. That way, you're not kind of behind the gun, so to speak, on there. But yeah, like the sooner the better, right? I mean, the more time you give yourself to figure out the processes, the better. That's just my opinion. What do you think would have been the benefit of starting early?
Yeah, I think if you start earlier, then you can develop connections earlier too, I think. Like, even if coaches can't email you back yet or talk to you back, they'll still, like, you'll get into their system, if that makes sense. And it's more so also getting used to the recruiting process because it's definitely different than anything else. And, you know, just getting used to it and, you know, practicing, like, writing your emails and talking to coaches early on so that when you get to the time where you actually can do it, you know, you're more prepared, you're more ready, you feel more confident.
One of the things that we're starting to tell athletes now is just to take advantage of the levels that you can contact. Like, the more practice you get, the better you're going to be. It's just like anything else, just like volleyball, you know, like you spend so much time practicing your athletic endeavors, in this case it's volleyball, you know, so that you can get to a certain level or get to a space where you can be confident. So it's the same thing with the recruiting process. What were some of the biggest challenges for you?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was getting schools to contact me back and realizing that even if the school didn't contact me, that they could still be looking at my stuff, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more so also just taking the time out of my day and like not getting so dejected too when schools that I was like interested in, they weren't contacting me per se.
Yeah. So you talk about tracking in there. Did you use sports recruits for that? Because I mean, that's one of the great features about sports recruits is that that you have the ability to track like who's looking at your videos and emails and that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Was that a big deal to you or no, not really?
I know, yeah. I used sports recruits that sophomore year. It was super helpful. Like, not only did it have like the coaches' emails, like a click away, honestly, like on the program, but also seeing what schools were viewing my profile or looking at my videos. It really helped to also get in contact with more schools too. You know, even if it was schools that like you weren't originally talking to and they were still viewing your stuff, you could be like, oh my gosh, I have to go contact them now too, because they might be interested in, but then I wasn't interested in them before, but now they're interested in me now. And it was sort of like that kind of thing.
You know, we got onto a text string not long ago with some of the team members from COA. Mm-hmm. And we're asking that type of question, like, how do you know what is the right school, right? And
yeah.
I think one of the common answers was that interest, right? Like, am I remembering that correctly? Like, it makes you feel like I got a lot of information about feel, like, oh, I had to feel good about the school, that type of thing. And then I was asking the question, well, what makes you, what do you mean feel? What feels good? What does that mean exactly? How does that compute in the recruiting process? Like, it's not, I don't know. I don't think of recruiting as a feeling. I think of it as a logical process. So maybe that's just my mind, you know. But what does that mean? Like, does that play a big role for you guys? Like, the feeling or knowing that someone is interested in you?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps to have that interest, because then it's not like a one-sided relationship. It's a two-sided relationship, you know. There's two parts that are going together, and just knowing that they're interested in you too, and it's like both ways. Like, I guess it boosts your ego, but then it also just gets you more like confident in yourself when you're talking to them.
Yeah, it seems like
it helps too. Yeah, sorry. And I guess it helps too. Like, if you're not sure if you want to play in college, you know, maybe if you're in a case where you didn't do a lot your freshman year, like, you know, your case, your sophomore year, you know, you're utilizing your resources that you had, like sports recruits, and you see, you know, the coaches watching your videos. For me, I feel like it would be motivating. Is that, you know, like to do more, to like send more, to like, okay, if this coach wrote me, then, or this coach watched my video, then what other coaches could I get to watch my video? Like, was that kind of a trigger for you or a mindset when those things started happening?
Yeah, totally. I think even getting into the process too is triggered by a coach reaching out too. So yeah, definitely helps.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody recently, and they weren't sure about college. You know, like I feel like they wanted to go, but they just saw themselves like a mid-major D1 or, you know, maybe a D2 program, and they had got interest from a really big school, and I was like, they were blown away, and it really changed their mindset. And they started pursuing much larger schools or more successful programs, I guess. I don't know how to phrase it exactly, but I always thought that was interesting. It's good. Like, confidence is such a big part of all the processes that we're a part of, you know. It's a little scary, the external feedback piece, like relying on someone else for your confidence. But it's true. It's true. It does. It means a lot when somebody expresses interest in us. So just quickly on the sports recruit stuff, what did you think were the most useful features on there?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, getting to see which coaches were viewing your, or not which coaches, but which schools were viewing your profile and your videos and stuff. And then just having like super easy access to coaches' emails and yeah.
Yeah. Any features that you would have, like, any challenges with it? Or were there features that you would have loved to have seen incorporated?
I think for the most part, I was like, I was pretty satisfied with the program. Yeah.
Yeah. Overall. Yeah, I think it's for what it is, man. It's, you know, it's not a recruiting service. It's just a platform that puts you in touch. But what a great tool. All right. So for the athletes that are listening in and they want to play at the next level, what's your advice to them?
I would definitely say, like, if you know already, to definitely just start right now on your recruiting process. Like, don't wait. It's like, yeah, don't wait till like it's too late, but just start as early as you can. And to be like patient with the process too, though. You know, you're not gonna find the perfect school on the first day or the first week. It's probably gonna take some time.
Might be a couple of years. I don't know.
Yeah, and to just like stick with it though, you know, like enjoy the process. Not every kid gets to go through it, and just feel it's just super special. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, man. There's something to be said for doing the work yourself, like that. I feel like that's part of the college experience just in itself. You know, like the degrees are important, but just putting yourself through that, getting outside of your comfort zone, you're getting put in a completely different environment, and then you have to really bust your tail to get to the diploma piece. So it's as much character building as it is educational. So I think that there's a certain sense of gratification and confidence that comes with that. So I don't know. I always feel like you guys should be doing the majority of the work when it comes to the recruiting process instead of having somebody else do it. So I'm with you 100% on that. All right. So talk to us about University of Pacific. How did that happen?
Yeah. So I think that they saw me play in a tournament at the Northern Lights qualifier. It was like maybe 2 years ago or so. Yeah. And from there, they were actually one of the schools that I was mass emailing, but I wasn't really keeping track of like which schools I was emailing. They were just one of them.
That seems dangerous, Megan. That seems dangerous.
But to be honest though, like I had never even heard of the school before. Like I've heard of the West Coast Conference, you know, BYU, Pepperdine. Those are all name schools that I've known of, but I didn't know about Pacific until later on, and when I started this process. And then they reached out after the Northern Lights tournament and they emailed me, and it was about this summer going into my junior year. And then from there, I was the one who actually asked for the phone call. I think I was doing a few phone calls before, but then it was the schools who were asking for them. But for Pacific, I specifically remember I was the one who initiated the talk of a phone call. And then I talked to Corey, the recruiting coordinator over there, and he was great. It was like we really connected, I thought. And then they got to see me play in Indianapolis. And then from there, we just kept on talking. I got to visit the campus last November on an official visit. And then after that, I ended up committing February, I believe, after Katie, one of the other coaches, got to see me play at the Hawaii Volleyball Combine. Then I called them up and I was like, yeah.
It's awesome, man. Hey, you know, you mentioned this and it really kind of stood out to me, and it was the phone call piece. I feel like athletes really get stuck on this. Is it as difficult as it seems? Like, listen, for me, I grew up socially awkward for sure, 100%, and phone calls are terrifying for me. So, I mean, I think a lot of athletes get into that thing where it's terrifying. So, is the process that bad, or do the coaches do a good job of trying to make it easy for you?
Well, this is personally, I think that I can talk to adults pretty well. Like, it's not something I'm really worried about. So for me, it was easy. But then I also think that having a set of questions to ask them after, and also, I guess, practicing with your parents too, like if you're unsure, if you're nervous about it before going into the phone call, definitely will help. But yeah, the coaches are great on the phone though, and they know what the right things to say. And you know, it's not supposed to be perfect, you know, they don't expect the perfect answers every single time. just like be yourself and it'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like the be yourself part because you know, and I also like the fact that you stated for those out there listening, she stated that she made the first phone call. You know, so kudos to you for not being afraid to do that. You know, I think some athletes at your, you know, where you were in the process, they get a little like torn, like I don't know if I should pick up the phone and call them. And I'm like, hey, go for it. You know, if it's a place you are you have a desire to play at, don't hesitate to pick up the phone. And like you said, it may not be perfect, but be yourself and you know, get through the conversation and see where it goes from there. So that's awesome. And I think that's just it's great for young athletes out there that, you know, will be listening and watching to hear.